their natures are good or evil intrinsically to the extent of the world they come from, if that makes sense.
It does. Now, but I'm getting worried.
Yeah.
These are great ideas that you're talking about. And you know me, that they're exciting.
Yeah.
I like the ideas that you're talking about. But is it a great plot? Because if you're pitching to me a book that's got a bunch of great ideas, but there's not a story that moves those ideas, I'm not interested. So what's the plot like here?
Well, the plot is, it's fun, for one thing. And the other thing I'll say as far as the plot goes is I actually finished reading The Wizard last night. And I was crying.
Okay.
Loudly. Okay. Usually I just, a tear or two. I was crying loudly. And I connected with the character so much.
Okay.
And the plot doesn't move lightning fast, but because everything means something, even if a ton of things aren't happening, and things happen. Plenty of battles, swords being drawn, fighting dragons, good times.
Sure.
But even when things aren't happening lightning fast, because everything means something, something is always happening to the characters.
I mean, to word the question a different way, you remember from a few podcasts ago, all I've been doing for the last few weeks is playing Gears of War 2.
Yeah.
My brain is mush. So this is a lazy question to ask and a petty question to ask.
Okay.
But, I mean, is this accessible fiction?
Absolutely. It's written from the perspective of a teenager. And while the prose is slightly epic, it's epic as if it were written well by a teenager.
Huh. Okay.
You can tell that, and the character is first person, is constantly reminding not just himself and the person he's writing to, but even characters in the book, that he's still a child. And of course, the people in that he's talking to in that world think he's speaking about his inner self, which is true. But he's also talking about how he feels and how he's acting. He has this body of this magnificent knight, but he doesn't always feel like it. And once again, we've got something that means something.
Sure.
Everything is like that.
When you keep saying that he's saturating everything with meaning, every item, every character, every place, I'm assuming, means something in this cosmology. Can you give some examples of that? Are we talking about universal forms of meaning, things that are common to all cultures and all men, or is he working within a specific set of codes?
I guess a little bit of both. He certainly uses symbols in the way that is probably more common, and that is to insert something into a story and then have something happen from it later, which lends it significance. That's usually not what he does. So he uses universals a lot more. He uses the codes of Norse mythology and medieval Christianity most.
Okay.
But, really it's all about, for him, a sense of place and what its core being is. And that's what lends it significance. So what I mean by that is that a plant is a plant. And gods are gods, men are men, women are women, cats are cats.
Okay.
And there's a cat in this story. And this cat is a cat to the fullest extent he can be. He's a talking cat. But he's a cat. And he's so cattish that catness means something for the story. And another example of that is the giants. Actually, before I get into that, one of my pet peeves, I have 4 young kids. One of my pet peeves in stories for kids is when a dragon is not a dragon. When the dragon is good. I mean, I'm okay with dragons being good. And there's a great example, for example, in
Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Exactly.
Eustace. Okay,
to me, that's a great example of a good way to use the concept of a good dragon.
Okay.
Because he's never really a dragon. The transformation is there, and it's frightening. And he could truly be a dragon forever. And that's what's frightening. He doesn't want to stay a dragon. And people who read that sort of story, I think, can be frightened by they seem to read that what's being said is that those people over there are bad, these people over here are good. If you look like that, you're bad. But when we're talking about this sort of story, a dragon means something in particular.
Okay.
Dragons must be evil. They symbolize evil. Okay. A dove must mean peace or goodness or fragility. That's what they symbolize. And so there's a sense of place for everything. The giants, the Norse had them as the opponents of the gods, and they were cast down in some extent into the world of humans, and that's the same case in this universe of the Wizard Knight. They live. It's named Jotunland, just like it's named in Norse mythology, the land of the giants. It's up in the mountains. So because of the way this universe is set up, it's literally halfway between the land of the humans and the land of the gods. And that ends up having deep significance, that the giants point to what human beings could be if they ever became godlike in their monstrosity. And the giants have things like, I talked a little bit about the fact that the creatures who got out of the middle could change more easily. Some of the giants have 2 heads or 3 arms, which you run across in English fairy tales all the time. And the significance that Wolfe puts on that is, you find out later about this ability that creatures outside of that middle world can have, but what it ends up doing is making them more monstrous, which reflects on how you read about humans. Another bad guy, if you will, in this Middle Earth of the humans is this kingdom of cannibals. They end up fighting a war against the Osterlings, which you could read as the Easterlings. And this is the kind of thing that frightens people, like when the Tolkien movies came out and the Southerlings were there, and people started talking about racism with the Southerlings. And I don't want to get into that argument. There's actually some good meat on that criticism. But what these Osterlings end up symbolizing, because they are ravenous and cannibalistic, they end up being how human beings could be demeaned towards evil. So there's how human beings could be exalted toward evil. They could become like the giants, and there's how they could be how they could be demeaned towards evil. So every nation, every person, every plant, everything tells you something about human beings. So because of this, it's a place. Pardon me.
No, it's great, and the more you talk about this, the more I know when we hit stop on recording this podcast, I'm going to go buy this book. I'm going to read it.
Yeah.